Hello, hello, and welcome to a very Canadian winter morning. I am currently trying to defrost my car because I didn't give myself that couple minutes of buffer before heading out going to the gym. My amazing partner, however, did get me one of these guys. It's a little heater to kind of warm the windshield, like to defrost the windshield. Comes in super handy. Doesn't work as fast as I'd like it to, but super handy, especially because a lot of the heat comes from the engine whenever you're using your vehicle. And if your vehicle's not running for a long period of time, or if it hasn't been moving, it's not going to heat much. Anyway, topic of the day, I figured while I'm waiting for this to kind of do its magic, assuming it doesn't fall off my dash, is actually something I got tattooed on me yesterday in a big way. I've gotten a massive piece started on the back of my legs, and it will eventually go over my bum as well. And on the one leg, it says as above, and on the other leg, it says so below. And there are these beautiful peonies that go with it. And peonies, at least for me and how I choose to view them, it's a healing flower. They represent healing and beauty. And this past month and this month that we're in now, February, were two big milestone years. So 3 years ago, I gave up cigarettes for the last time. Like I'm 3 years cigarette free. As of this month, oh, sorry, I got something super in my eyeball. And as of last month, I was 9 years sober. As if you guys have watched my previous video, you may have already known. This is also in 2025. This is the year in numerology of the 9, because 2 plus 2 plus 5, obviously 0 zeros out, is 9. My birth year in numerology and my life number is also 9. And so I've decided that my decade is going to be at my 9-year mark for sobriety. Obviously, I'm still going to manage my next year and the year after that, the year after, and so on and so forth. But I thought that this was a great way to kind of commemorate that. The as above, so below, what that kind of means for me is really more in a way the healing we do and the intention we put into the self. Well, the inner work we do truly does translate to the outer work, and it truly does work to heal so many layers that have existed before we have come to exist here where we are. So many moments in life where you do something to heal and to recover, and it truly brings you back to a place of when you were hurting, when you were lost and stuck in that deep muck, that deep well. And it heals that part of you that didn't have that help at that time. It heals that part of you that didn't have that love and support. You truly, in your present time, become that help and support for you back then. And that might sound weird to those who don't see time as an unlinear thing. And so I'd like to further elaborate by saying that the work we do to heal ourselves here not only heals the existing generation of ourselves and like the people who have immediate connection to us and those we have immediate influence over or with, but it also works to heal the generations to come and the aspects of you, the fractals of you, the many dimensions and versions of you that are also working to experience this human journey. I'm a firm believer in I'm a firm believer that there are multiple realities and multiple incarnations of us coexisting all at one time. I believe that many of our incarnations exist all simultaneously, because time isn't a linear thing. Time isn't something that just, I was around in the 1800s and then I incarnated again in the 2000s, and or like I incarnated in the 1900s, 1800s. Like, it's not just in a line. They're all in my mind, my belief, they're all coexisting simultaneously. And so whenever there are those crossovers, it's literally just a matter of that veil being so thin that you're able to tune in, or you're close enough to that level of existence that you're able to kind of connect with that. It's a really hard thing to kind of try and simplify. or quantify even. But my firm belief is that as we work to heal these aspects of self that are so trapped and so stuck in this incarnation that we're in right now, the more that we work to heal those aspects of ourself that are in those previous incarnations, or that are in those older timelines during this incarnation. Like, if you're calling at one point for a spirit guide in your, in your day to day, that could very well be a future self. Your higher self is your future self. And I really, really would like to say, and just put another fucking highlight on that. Your higher self is your future self. Your higher self is every other aspect of yourself that is still in existence, but existing within a different plane. And so as you work to heal yourself here, as as below as well, so above. So as you work to heal yourself here, that ripple is felt all throughout those timelines. That ripple is felt all throughout those existences and those very different layers of your existences. We are sent here, we incarnate here to experience the human journey, to experience love, to experience pain, to experience like tumultuation, like challenge and darkness and beauty and the very many complexities of human existence and coexistence. Like, that is such a massive part of it. And so I truly do believe that the healing we do here, the healing that we do within ourselves, it affects across all timelines. It affects and brings us closer to those higher vibrational timelines. It allows us to leave those aspects, those lifestyles, and in essence, that timeline where we were that person who was so much less evolved. And today, for example, I was drinking my coffee, and I take creatine in my coffee. I'm about to go to the gym, and creatine is a part of my supplement regimen that I prefer to keep in. I was putting my creatine in my coffee, and I couldn't help but have a moment of nostalgia, and a really weird kind of nostalgia, because my mom, so whenever we were all using very, very avidly cocaine, we at one point had experimented with different things to cut with. And this might get a little, trigger happy if you're not liking hearing about drugs. But we used to cut with creatine at one point. I knew no better, and I was just following instruction. And I was very much considered a junkie at this point. I was an addict. I was heavily underuse. And I no longer have a septum. As a result, I can fit my fingers like that. Like, there's a hole yay big up my nose, and it's called a perforated septum because of the chemical compounds, the different things that were mixed with the drugs, or what would be considered cut with the drugs. And as I was making my coffee, I usually put a good deal of intention into my coffee. Like, what kind of levels are we going to be at today? What kind of intention am I setting? What kind of energy do I want to be bringing to me with me to the gym? Or do I want to be blocking and protecting myself from? And I couldn't help but have a giggle, because whenever I'd first started using creatine, I'd had a similar thought, but it hit, and it was triggering. It was compulsory. It was constantly just like, oh, like this, almost like I shouldn't be using this, because it was so associated to something that took so much from me in my mind. And it's wild to me to have those little flashback moments where I can go back and see Brooke then, and just kind of hold that space for her and be like, oh, my love, that's not how you use that. Where I can hold that space for myself and just remember, like, that's not how we do it. And within those moments, I offer that forgiveness, and I truly do feel that residual ripple throughout the ether back in those moments. So whenever I do remember those moments now, and especially through my journey, I've been using creatine on and off for about a year now. And so especially through that journey of using supplements, using different things to kind of like help my body in different ways, I find that whenever I remember those things, my memory used to be so plagued and so haunted by severe emotion and severe overwhelm, and just the trauma, the memory, like the absolute memory of what I felt at that time, who I was, everything in my environment at that time. Now, whenever I think back to those moments, I truly only see a lost girl who just needed that hug. And I truly only feel as though, oh, yeah, that was such a brutal moment. You know, it's no longer something that holds me totally captive. And so I truly do feel on so many levels the as above, so below within that. The amount of times where I'd worked on the above, I worked on here, the conscious level, I've worked on the self, I've worked on the body, I've worked on the mind, and the ripples that kind of went throughout my own trauma, my own experience, and then throughout the people around me as well, where they started realizing, oh, maybe I don't want to live in this space of awareness. Maybe I'd like to elevate to a different level of awareness or experience. Or, you know, this just really doesn't suit me anymore. Maybe I need to kind of, or I should kind of experience and branch out and build onto what already exists here. And I find so often in those moments that it really does, it heals so much more than just the moment. It heals so much more than just the past. It heals so much more than just our physical memory of everything that had happened. It heals the body's memory. It heals the autonomic nervous system and allows us to feel less stress, to feel less compulsory, com- less burdened, truly just less burdened. And I feel as though that lack of burden, that lack of tie to that old self, it allows you to create and to generate a new self. And it allows you to move forward in a new way that is totally beyond what you were in that life. You know, I like to say, if you, every now and again, you know, oh, that was a whole lifetime ago. And it truly is. Whenever we're referring to timelines, we're not referring to like you magically stepped out of your body and have transferred into a new body, into a new self. No, this shit takes time. You develop a new self. You work from the ground up. Every 7 fucking years, our body, or every cell in our body regenerates itself, which means it is a new cell, which means every 7 years we go through this metamorphosis, this transformation, the cocoon, and we emerge as something very different. And I truly do believe that that is switching timelines. That is consciously making that decision to vibrate at a higher level. That now, this timeline that you were in, this timeline where, you know, you were stuck, hooked, addicted, you were fucking awful to people, you were, you know, maybe not who you were envisioning of becoming. You're stuck as a, like, you're stuck in your lower vibrational self. I truly believe that as you raise that vibration, as you come into your own power, as you come into your own knowing, that you truly do evolve towards a higher vibration and a new timeline. And that timeline is quite literally just where you exist in time and space. And so everything around yourself, of course, shifts to a new timeline whenever you accept these new agreements, these new contracts almost that we make with ourselves. You know, like whenever we agree, who am I, what am I, what do I love, what do I to reach back again to Don Miguel Ruiz, who had written the 4 and 5 agreements, and as well he'd written the 3 questions and quite a few other books. So if you're a reader, please check him out. But in Don Miguel Ruiz's book, the 3 questions, it just puts it so clearly, because the first, like, what is love, what is self, who am I, and what is truth. And in order to know who you are, you have to know who you are not. You have to know what resonates, what doesn't, what sets your soul on fire, and what smothers that flame. You have to know what feeds your reality and feeds your truth, and what you can do consciously to kind of pull yourself more towards that. With what is love, you cannot know what love is until you understand within yourself what love is not. You need to understand what aspects of love are damaging, are hurtful, are self-sabotaging. What patterns within love do you still have that are holding you back from experiencing real true love? And then you're able to slowly develop an understanding of what your love is, what feels true for your love, and what ways that you can share that love with others and that you expect and receive that love back. What kind of boundaries are in place for that love? And healthy boundaries are so important to be able to confirm and create that timeline, to be able to hold firm in your changes that you're making, those conscious movements that you're making forward. And then what is truth? You truly, truly cannot know truth until you understand what lack of truth is, what lie is, what someone living or not living in their truth is, what you not living in your truth is. You cannot understand what your authentic reality is, what your authentic self is, until you understand the ways in which that you aren't true to yourself, that you're not truthful, or you're not living in truth with yourself. And I think that that is such a palpable example, such a tangible example of as above, so below. Because as you're within your lower level consciousness, as you're within your lower vibrational frequencies, you're coming to understand what truth is not. You're coming to understand who you are not. And you're coming to understand what love is not. You're learning to understand what is acceptable and appropriate within your environment. And you can truly set that stage. And then you start to create that life that truly ripples as below. And on the other, in the other direction as well, if you're constantly choosing the, you know, the sabotage, if you're constantly choosing the fear-based programming, the absolute, you know, just lack of awareness, if you choose to stay within that asleep kind of mentality, then everything is going to ripple throughout that as well in the negative. It's going to sit, it's going to linger throughout all those different timelines. Then whenever you are receiving help from those higher aspects of yourself, whenever you're calling out to the heavens, you're not receiving the best advice to launch you or propel you forward. And if you are, you're not listening to it. And if you're able to truly put that out and listen to it, even when you're in that lower vibrational density, you're able to kind of raise that conscious awareness. So it really does just come down to a choice. It is a fucking choice. It's not an easy one. It is not an easy one, but it's a fucking choice. A cool like a cool activity I'd done a while back for journaling, and it's like just a journaling prompt that I'd like to share, and eventually, probably later today, I will read out a couple of them that I'd found in my own journal and elaborate on that a little bit. But what I want to dig into a little bit is the I ams and the I am not. To be able to write and create and see in front of you an example of who you are in the moment and who you're not in the moment really does allow for the opportunity to just experience yourself from an objective perspective and be able to detach yourself from your inner story, from the inner dialogue that's constantly creating your environment, because we are only able to perceive our immediate reality. We're only able to perceive our understanding of source, of love, of all of this. And so the more we're able to write it out, to journal it, to think about it, and to truly just sit with it, allow yourself that 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes to sit with it and allow it to make itself known to you. Allow yourself to just exist while information comes through and you observe. And that's why meditation is so important, so absurdly important. And even just waking meditation, active meditation, being conscious, having that conscious moment while you're doing the dishes, while you're doing your craft, while you're sitting and taking time to kind of like de-stress, even if it's while you're smoking a joint, even if it's while you're just kind of like, taking that whenever you've had a bad day. That couple moments where your mind is being honest with you are so important to analyze. And it's so important to be in tune with that level of yourself so that you can kind of evolve beyond that. It's not like you just decide one day, like, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to quit drugs, and I'm going to quit all this stuff that in some way feeds that survival struggle that I'm going through right now. You don't just wake up one day and decide that. That's something that comes after so much hardship, that comes after so much struggle, and you have to hit that lower point to realize, like, no, this doesn't work for me. This is not what's true for me. This is not what I consider self. This is not what I want to consider self. And then you can start making those slow, like turtle slow changes towards what you actually want to be feeding your soul. what you actually want to be, consciously making an effort to change, to do, to be. Again, if you haven't yet, please check out the books from Don Miguel Ruiz. Dr. Gabor Mate is another phenomenal human. He's an author as well of quite a few books. The three that I'd like to highlight right now are the one he'd written on addiction, The Realm of Hungry Ghosts, and the one he'd written on um, The Myth of Normal, Healing in an Otherwise Toxic Society, as well as The Myth of Normal, or sorry, When the Body Says No, The Hidden Cost of Stress. And that truly is what happens whenever we live within our untruth for so long. We end up causing and creating so many diseases, so many chronic illnesses, so many things that our body, our nervous system has to now take on and just like keep within the vessel, because it's our experience. It's our, it's what we've put in the well. Now the well has to eventually come up. You've got to get that water out of there eventually so that new water can be replaced. And with chronic illness, that's not something that goes away. It's something that can be worked with. It's something that can be managed and mitigated and tolerated. But whenever the body has undergone so much experience, you cannot just poof it away. You cannot just wish it or will it away. And you can to an extent, but you have to be able to tune in to your body, to tune in to yourself, to know what aspects can be worked with, what aspects can be changed.